My name is Alex Caserta. I recently retired from a 34-year career as a visual arts instructor in order to embark on a new adventure. As a photographer, my goal is to reveal historical information while shedding new light on the people and places that sustain our rich cultural heritage. This is an opportunity for us to discover the farms, food, and flavors of our beautiful state. This is a time for us to explore the diverse wonders in our own backyard.
This is Harvesting, Rhode Island. Is that all right?
Excellent. Cut.
I'm here with Debbie Hopkins at Hopkins Southdown Farm in North Situate, Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. And what we have here is a sheep farm.
Correct, yes.
And there's a lot of sheep here.
Yes, we actually, our farm name is, the reason why we use Southdowns is actually the breed of sheep that we raise. They're primarily a meat type sheep, known for their quality of flavor and marbling in their lamb. But we also, as I mentioned, we get lambs all year round, which we have some now on the ground. We've used another breed of sheep called Dorset. They lamb out of season naturally, so we kind of integrate the two meat breeds together to get our product for our customers.
Now these sheep, the type of sheep that you're raising, they're an English breed?
Yes, most of their down breeds, we call them, came over from England many years ago. They're primarily the ones that we use in this country for the meat production. This farm, we didn't just pop up here recently. We've been in the business over 40, 50 years. We've been at this location probably since 1983. We've moved back here to the home farm, and we started, we brought our sheep back with us, and we started raising sheep here in Rhode Island. But what we were primarily doing was raising purebred breeding stock that we sold around the country, showed around the country, and those were our purebred Southdowns. And that primarily was what this farm started out as. They were my husband and ours 4-H and FA projects, kind of built up from there. But then when we got back here, we still raised them, showed them a lot around locally, nationally. Then a few years ago, the Rhode Island Raised Livestock Association got started and involved and worked with the Department of Ag and the Department of Health to start the processing, licensing processing for us to start to do direct marketing. And that kind of changed the whole focus of what we do here now. We have what we call commercial sheep. Those are the crossbreds and the ewes that we use for the production. We still have our purebred Southdowns. My son-in-law and daughter actually have started, we've been kind of giving them the sheep, the purebred sheep a little bit, so they're showing them now under their name. And so we still do both things, because that's kind of what got us here and what started everything. But certainly when that licensing changed, it changed our way of doing things.
Now you have a little office right on location here filled with freezers.
We do sell directly off the farm to people that we've developed customer relations with. We do attend 2 farmers markets all year round. We go to the Pawtucket indoor market at the Hope Artiste Village. And then we also do Hope Street Market outside at Lippert Park during the summer.
During the summer. Now tell me something about sheep meat compared to, or lamb meat compared to beef.
Lamb, as far as the red meat goes, their fat content is a little bit more healthier for people to consume. It's a little bit stronger flavor than beef. It also, as far as we're concerned, the lamb we raise, there's a varying degree of flavor of lamb. Your grass-fed lamb tends to be more potent, very strong flavor, whereas we finish ours off with grain, and they tend to have a little bit more juiciness to them, a little bit more inner fat, and they have a milder flavor. And that's kind of what we go for, and that's kind of what our restaurants like too. They like that kind of a flavor to cook with and work with at their facilities.
Now you've become quite popular with the restaurants in Rhode Island. You're doing what, about 70% of your business now?
Yes, it's
through local chefs?
Yes.
And about 30% is still farmers market?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, we've developed a lot of relationships with chefs directly. That kind of started a few years ago when we got exposed on the Market Mobile program through the Farm Fresh Rhode Island. We've developed a lot of relationships to the point where we sell a lot of whole animals to a restaurant. A lot of these farm to table chefs like to take the whole animal, utilize it from head to toe, and they kind of like that. So we developed that market also, which we can't do through Market Mobile. We can't take a carcass to them
Right,
and have
yeah.
them deliver it. So anyway, so that had just developed into a great source for them to get the whole animals what they want to look for, and for us actually it's the easiest and the best ways for us to sell our product.
Now, Debbie, in the back field over here where I was walking around
Yep.
with the little guys, they're all sheared.
Yes.
We just missed that, I guess.
Yes, that was a couple of days ago. My husband used to shear sheep, but that's very taxing work, and it got so he couldn't walk after a couple of days of doing it. So we have some guys that come in. There was 2 of them here. They sheared 80 or 70 head in about 6 hours. We do shear twice a year. Even though we're not what I call wool type sheep production, the problem is these sheep are going to be lambing in 3 to 4 months. They're going to be inside and more confined. So we kind of like to get the wool off and it's healthier for the animals. There's less condensation in the barn. It keeps the air better and the quality in the barn. And you can fit more animals probably in the barn more comfortably.
And I noticed in the field behind you that there another grouping of sheep hanging out with a couple of large llamas.
Yes, yes, yes they are.
What are the llamas doing?
The llamas one of the major problems with sheep production, no matter where you are, is predators. And there's a lot of predators. Sheep are kind of defensive animals. So there's, around here we have, at the moment all we have are coyotes and domestic dogs, but people have trouble with bears, mountain lions. It can get, depending on your part of the country. So llamas are very aggressive. They'll attack their predators. They'll protect the sheep, and they'll actually use their feet, basically is what they use, mostly their front feet.
They're tall animals.
Yeah, they're tall and they're intimidating
Yes.
when they get a little angry. So we usually try the other protection that a lot of people use. Some people use donkeys. They can be, if you get an aggressive donkey, they do the same type of thing. A lot of people swear by their guard dogs. Those are
Yep.
big, usually you see them, they're like Great Pyrenees or Commodores. They're big, large white dogs. They kind of just let them run around all night long, and they go out and protect the sheep wherever they go out. They're very nocturnal animals, but we kind of like the llamas. They kind of fit in with our program here a little bit better. They eat the same as the sheep. You treat them the same as the sheep, so they're a little bit easier to us. They're easier to take care of. Especially we have houses close by. We don't need the dogs. A lot of times at night when they're patrolling, they bark and so they're a little bit quieter for our close by neighbors.
So Debbie, what can you tell me about the future of the farm and where you'd like to go?
Well, actually, my husband has a full-time job still, and I do too. So hopefully in the future we can make this more profitable enough to sustain us in our retirement and keep us busy, and we'll still be able to involve in agriculture, which we've been in our whole lives.
And are you hoping that maybe your family takes over where you're leaving off?
Yeah, my son-in-law currently works down at URI, and he's an agricultural background. My daughter, she works, you know, at the lumberyard as an office manager. She has a lot of interest in the sheep, so hopefully, you know, they'll keep it going in some sort of means or manner.
And what about young people who want to go into the business of raising sheep?
Well,
is it something that you would recommend, or?
Well, it's a lot of time commitment, and you got to commit a lot of time. We were discussing this actually the other night. We had a Rhode Island Sheep Co-op meeting, and we were talking about how we could get kids, you know, more involved into raising agriculture. But kids' lives these days are very, you know, spread out. Should I say? They got their academic commitments, and they've got their sports. But to us, showing and raising sheep was our sport. And so that's what we did, you know, that was what we did every free weekend, and that's how we spent all our time. To get more people involved, I mean, there's a lot of younger people that are becoming interested in doing, you know, sustainable agriculture.
Right.
But
we need the livestock, though.
Yeah, you need livestock production. Livestock production has been going down because there just isn't, you know, it seems like we always are the ones that get the bad rap versus the vegetable farmers or the orchards.
Because of the animals being
because
slaughtered.
the animals being slaughtered. But it's a way of life. I mean, they were put here on this earth, you know, not only to sustain themselves, but to, you know, sustain, you know, the caretakers for them and the people. You got to feed a world.
And I'm sure that everything is humane, more or less, today when they're.
Oh yes, I mean, when they're processed, they're stunned before anything happens to them. They're actually, we handle them with more care than probably any other animal, because we want to make sure that, you know, the quality of the product is at its best. And if you stress an animal out or do something wrong, your quality of your product, your lamb is not going to be as tasteful or as tender or as good in the long run. And you go to a lot of work. It's a lot of work to get a sheep up to, we sell them at 120 pounds at about 6 months of age. And it's a lot of work to get that animal up to that point.
So how long will it actually take for a small kid to grow into a full size?
Well, they're born, they weigh anywhere from, say, 5 to 12 pounds. And when they're processed at 120 to 130 pounds, they're, depending on their, you know, the rate of gain, how productive they were, they can be anywhere from 4 to 7 months of age.
Wow.
So, I mean, they grow fast.
They grow fast.
Yes, they grow up. These girls here are all what we call aged ewes, or our blue ewes. They've just been exposed to the ram, and they're going to have their lambs here in about 3 months or so, 3 to 4 months.
Would you like to see somebody, if your daughter and son decide not to go into this type of business, would you like to see a young couple who's dedicated come in and take over the farm?
Well, yeah, I mean, we'd love to have it in the family, of course.
Yeah.
And we did have our first grandchild, but he's the non-farm kid.
Yeah.
He's the one that's not here, but certainly, hopefully, you know, we'll be able to keep it within the family, because it started off within the family, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys.
Well, that would be nice. I want to thank you and the sheep for having us over here today. Huh, guys? Yeah, you're not interested in talking. I'm here with Martha Neal today, and we are at Windmiss Farm, a historical farm located in beautiful Jamestown, Rhode Island. And this has been a farm since how many years?
300 plus.
300 plus years, goes way back.
Since the settlers were in Newport and they used it for pasture.
And a lot of the farmland on Jamestown was used for grazing sheep at the time?
Yes.
Many years ago? Yes. You have some cattle out here in the field. What type of cattle are they?
These are belted Galloways. They are a heritage breed. They come from the Galloway region of Scotland, developed in the 1500s. Most of the genetics were brought into this country in the early 1900s by a man in Maine. A lot of people know the cows from Rockport, Maine, the Aldermere herd. We like the way they look. They're not a very big beef animal. They're not very fast growing, but they're very thrifty. very hardy.
And how many do you have in the herd?
Ooh, there are probably 70 something out there now. We have a few across the street and a few down at Fort Getty as well.
Martha, sustainability seems to be a word that goes around quite a bit, and keeping the local farmer going and keeping the local farmer in business and producing, whether they're producing crops or whether they're producing livestock. I don't know what the comparison is in terms of livestock farmers compared to specialty crop farmers who grow in the ground,
Right.
but do you feel that Rhode Island has enough land in the state where we could have more livestock farmers?
Absolutely. There is a lot of land out there. It's just a matter of people being willing to lease it, rent it, make some kind of an arrangement. It has to be affordable. It has to be usable. There's a lot to that.
In terms of having a pasture
Right,
to
right,
graze,
right.
and whether you're doing
And
sheep or cattle.
the neighbors have to be somewhat tolerant of it. You know, cows don't always stay where they're supposed to stay, and that can be a problem. Yeah, I do think there is the potential, but it's going to take a little bit of education.
And it's mostly the people who own the land who need to more or less make a decision as to whether they want to sell it for more houses,
Right.
or whether they want to put it
Utilize
to
it.
use
Yeah, yeah.
and keep it preserved
Yeah.
for forever, which is fairly
It's
important.
One of the dilemmas in some of the wealthier communities that people want big backyards, and that's something that we talk about a lot in terms of, you know, do you want to mow that yard, or can you put it to use and put some kind of livestock on it? So,
Yeah, I think talking to a lot of younger generation people today, they would almost prefer, some of them, having a farm in
Right.
the back of their yard,
Right,
as
right.
opposed to having
Yes.
more to mow, as you say.
Right.
But having
Yeah.
something a little bit more interesting, knowing that when you look out and see something like this on a day-to-day basis,
Right.
that it really brings you down home, so to speak,
Right.
in terms of something that we have in Rhode Island that other people don't have if you're living in the city of Boston,
Right.
or in
Right.
other locations.
Right, something more urban.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, New
Yeah.
England has a lot to offer
Yes,
for
but it's
people who live here.
Definitely small farms. It's not anything like the big ag that you find, you know, even as close as Pennsylvania and upstate New York. So very, very different.
And the big ag are doing it mostly for production
Right.
purposes.
Right. This is not a production, right? Not a
Not a
commodity
production
market
farm,
here, right?
but it
It's
is
definitely a
something where,
niche.
where somebody could earn a living off of.
Like I said, I'm not sure if it's a living or a lifestyle, but yes.
Well, maybe a
Yes.
little bit of both,
Right,
but
right.
but where you could do it full time and maybe
Right,
not
right.
have to go out and get another job.
Right, right. Yeah, most of the farmers in Rhode Island, I think, still are a two-income proposition that you have to work off farm to support the on farm.
But people are getting more creative in terms of what they're doing
And
on the farms.
finding more products and value adding
Yeah,
and
you,
marketing it.
you're doing
Yes.
the apple cider, you were telling me,
Well,
on the
it's my
weekends,
nephew's business, but
and the
it's
cider
definitely-
donuts that are
right,
drawing in a tremendous
right,
crowd on the
right. It's been
weekends.
very good for my business.
Yeah.
Yes,
So I think all of that's very important,
Yes,
and
yep.
people get to come to the farm, they get to bring their kids to the farm and
Yes.
see the livestock
Yep.
that
Yes, it's
maybe
a-
they don't have
Yep.
where they're living.
Yep.
And it brings a whole new story, a whole new way of living
Absolutely.
to people, and hopefully generating a
interest.
younger group of
Right.
people who become interested in
Right.
farming, or at least feel that it's very
It's important to preserve.
what we
Yes.
have in the state
Yes,
here.
absolutely.
And I think all of that is wonderful.
Yeah.
And do you feel that it's more important to save the land and have smaller farms as opposed to people who cannot afford to purchase large masses of land to do, 200 head of cattle?
That's the reality in Rhode Island in particular, I think, small.
The reality
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
Any words of encouragement for for young people?
You know, I love the young farmers that I work with. There's so much energy and enthusiasm there, and land, or access to land is the big issue, and people are working on it and working towards making it happen, and I just hope they keep trying because
A lot of the young farmers I've met are very educated too.
yes, some
Yeah, they're
most
very
of
educated.
the one I know are Brown graduates, which says something right there, but they're passionate about what they do, and that's what it takes. You know, as I said, this is what I always wanted to do when I grew up. I haven't really started to do it until I was in my 50s, but I always wanted to do it, and so that passion doesn't go away.
And they'll be hopefully our next generation of farmers
Right. There will
in
always
Rhode
be
Island.
farmers because there's always been that burning desire to do it. So.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll start selling or consuming more of a percentage of the food that is raised and grown locally.
I can tell you how these animals were raised and what they ate and the lives they led, and they were good cow lives and good sheep lives and good chicken lives, and I think that that's so important.
Is it possible, do you think, to raise a herd like this with smaller
the
chunks?
dilemma with the way we want to do it, which is a pasture-based farm, is that you've got to have a lot of pasture. You know, we've been to workshops in the Midwest where they have hundreds of acres, you know, versus 80 acres, and you want to rotationally graze. Well, you have to let fields rest. You have to have enough contiguous land that you can move the cattle or the sheep, whatever you're moving through. It's difficult. So
grass-fed hay is kind
grass.
of
Oh, grass is absolutely. I mean, hay is absolutely grass.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean,
yeah,
so there's really no difference.
No, they are all grass-fed. But we got first cutting. My husband just mowed second cutting in November. You know, that doesn't make sense at all. Second cutting should be coming the end of July, so that shows how dry it's been.
It's been very dry.
Right.
We're standing in front of the pretty nice looking chicken coops that you have over here. What can you tell me about the chickens that you have?
So these are my layer hens. They are a hybrid production layer. We bring in pullets, as they call them, or 16-week-old chickens, because we want them to be productive as soon as possible. So they start laying between 20 and 22 weeks. I bring in new chickens in March and September. You're always cycling old chickens out. It's important to keep that egg production up. I want to keep my egg supply pretty steady, and so I run probably about 1,000 chickens all year round. This is only a portion of them. I have more up near the barns. The point is to let them be chickens, and as you can see, they're out doing their chicken thing, just kind of poking around the grass and scratching and getting down in the dirt. Chickens cannot survive on just bugs and worms. They have to have feed. We do feed GMO-free grain that we're able to source from Pennsylvania that I would love to feed organic, but organic grain is 3 times the price. GMO-free is a little bit more expensive, but I believe very strongly in the GMO-free soy and corn. So they get a high quality feed. They have egg boxes or nest boxes in the coops, so they lay in the coops and I collect at the end of the day. And they have a guard dog with them who's now sleeping in his house. He spends most of his night making sure that they're safe, so he gets tired and has to sleep all day long.
Oh,
But
so he knows what to do.
yeah, he knows what to do. Very effective. Could not do it without him. We would be wiped out by either coyotes or mink, or even possum can be a problem in chickens. So
Now, will these chickens go inside?
so they'll go in the coops at night.
At
In the
night.
warmer weather, they camp out quite a bit too, but they will definitely go close to the coop.
But they all know, so they lay just once a day?
I think it's every 24 to 36 hours that they
Uh-huh.
lay an egg, so not every chicken is laying an egg every day. So
How many eggs a day do you collect?
just about 300 eggs a day.
It's a lot of eggs.
It's a lot of eggs. I sell a lot of eggs. Yep.
And then in the wintertime, you were telling me that you'll bring them up.
We do put them
inside.
in because they produce better if they're inside, if they're warm, if they're lit. They don't have to be heated, but they have to be out of the wind and the cold.
Martha, Windmist is all protected land at this point,
Yep.
which means that it always has to be farmland.
Yes. Yes.
And no one could ever build on here.
Yes.
And do you feel that when your husband and you are ready to retire, that you'll be able to turn this over to family or maybe someone else?
We're not sure at this
Not
point.
sure
That's
yet.
what's so hard about passing farmland along, is it's definitely something that you don't know until the time comes. So
Been a good life for you?
I wouldn't trade it for the world. So
And you've been doing this for you
we've been
grew up.
doing it so actively for the last 9 years, but I've always wanted to grow up and be a farmer, I guess is what it comes down to. We were never encouraged to be farmers, but there's just something to the lifestyle. As people say, it's a lifestyle, not an income. So
Yes.
if you can afford to do it, I guess it's worth pursuing.
I can't say enough about the beauty of this place. It's just, it's incredible land.
I'm blessed, there's no doubt.
No doubt about it. And I hope that people will be farming it for the next 200-300 years.
Yes, that's the plan. Not me.